All right, so get ready to dive into something, well, it's fascinating, but kind of creepy too, you know? Today, we're going to tackle Tomino's Hell.
Tomino's Hell. Yeah, it's a poem that's really gotten under people's skin. I mean, for decades, readers have been captivated by it, spooked by it. It's really taken root online and forums and discussions, with people trying to unravel all its secrets.
And you sent us this really interesting article. It's from horrorobsessive.com, and the title is, get this, A Tomino's Hell Poem by Saijō Yaso, Don't Read Out Loud.
Yeah.
So it dives into like all the history of the poem, the rumors that surround it, and then some possible interpretations. But let's be real, we got to talk about the curse, right?
Yeah, right off the bat, the article's like, hey, heads up, reading this thing out loud could bring you bad luck. Illness, even death, they say. It's almost like an urban legend, but it's found new life online.
Yeah. Makes you think twice about reading anything out loud, doesn't it?
Right.
But before we get into all that, let's talk about the guy who wrote it, Saijō Yaso. And here's the thing. He was known for writing children's rhymes, song lyrics.
Yeah.
Not exactly the resume you'd expect from the guy who dreamt up Tomino's Hell.
Yeah, it's a weird contrast, right? And what's even more interesting is that we know so little about his life, about Yaso, I mean, especially in English. It's almost like this one super dark, unsettling poem is all he's known for. It makes you wonder, if that lack of information, maybe it adds to the mystery of the whole thing.
Right. It's like a missing piece of the puzzle. Just makes it all the more mysterious. Okay, but we can't just talk background forever, right? Let's get to it, the poem itself. And, we like to give you the good stuff, so be ready for some excerpts. The article talks about how vivid the imagery is, how ambiguous the story is. It really pulls you in.
Oh, absolutely. So the poem, it's about this kid, Tomino, and he's on this journey into, well, a terrifying underworld. And it does not hold back. Like right away, you get hit with lines like, the elder sister vomits blood, younger sister breathes fire, while sweet little Tomino just spits up the jewels.
Okay, whoa, I am getting chills just hearing that. It's like you're instantly in this nightmare.
Exactly. And that's, just the start. Throughout the poem, Yaso uses these incredibly vivid images, blood, fire, and these recurring jewels to create this feeling of inescapable suffering, And then there's this thing with the number 7. 7 mountains, 7 rivers, like this idea of never-ending suffering.
Okay, hold on. What's up with these jewels that Tomino keeps spitting up? They seem important.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest debates about the poem, for sure. Some people, they interpret it literally, like maybe it represents wealth, possessions, stuff that Tomino loses on his way down into this darkness.
I can see that. But there's got to be something deeper there, right? Like maybe the jewels represent his innocence or some hidden truth. Especially since the author of the article seems to think the poem might be a metaphor for some kind of family secret.
Right. And that's what's so cool about Tomino's Hell. It doesn't give you any easy answers. It just gives you these really disturbing images, and then it's like, okay, now you find your own meaning in it. But it goes beyond just symbolism. The article mentions this, well, kind of a chilling connection between Tomino's Hell and this Japanese film director, Shuji Terayama.
Wait, wasn't he like obsessed with the poem? Didn't he make a movie about it?
He did. In 1974, he released a film. Sometimes it's translated as Pastoral, To Die in the Country. Sometimes as Pastoral, Hide and Seek. And it was totally inspired by Tomino's Hell.
Okay, so he adapts this, like, supposedly cursed poem into a movie. What happens next?
Oh, well, and here's where it gets really creepy. A few years later, when he was 47, Terayama died. Cirrhosis of the liver. It was a real medical condition, obviously, but some people couldn't help but connect it back to the film. Like maybe Tomino's Hell had something to do with it.
Okay, now that's just creepy. You can't deny that's a little freaky, right?
Right.
This director makes a movie based on this poem, and then, bam, he's gone a few years later. Makes you wonder about the power of suggestion, Like, if you believe something's cursed, you just start seeing connections where there aren't any.
Like a self-fulfilling prophecy, almost. Yeah. And the article mentions other stuff, too. Like, there was this story about a college student, a woman, who supposedly died a week after she read the poem out loud as, like, a joke. And then you've got all these comments from people saying they felt super uneasy after reading Tomino's Hell, or they had weird experiences.
It's easy to just write those stories off, right? Coincidence, or people just freaking themselves out, letting their imaginations run wild. But then again, that's part of what makes it so interesting. This poem, it messes with your sense of what's real and what's not.
For sure. And Terayama's film, it's this really interesting visual interpretation, but it also raises these questions about what the poem means on a deeper level. And there are so many interpretations out there. Some people, they see Tomino's Hell as this metaphor for like the horrors of war. Others think it's about loss or grieving.
The author of the article, though, they were suggesting something a lot darker, weren't they? Like maybe it's an allegory for some kind of family secret, maybe even abuse.
Yeah. It's a pretty chilling thought, actually. If you go back and read the poem with that in mind, those lines, vomiting blood, breathing fire, they take on a whole new meaning. Almost like those phrases represent all these, like, trapped emotions, these unspoken things within a family.
And maybe the jewels that Tomino keeps spitting up, maybe that's the secret, the thing he can't talk about. Like he's stuck in this place where he has to stay silent, keep it all bottled up.
Yeah, that's powerful. And, if you think about it, maybe Yaso, the poet, maybe he was drawing from something in his own life, maybe a dark family secret. It adds a whole other layer to this whole curse thing. Like maybe it's those unspoken truths that are somehow bound to the words of the poem.
It's like this lingering sense of trauma or guilt, and it gets stirred up when you read the poem out loud, like you're unearthing something dangerous.
Yeah. Folklore is full of stories about curses being tied to secrets, things
Yeah.
that people try to hide, and Tomino's Hell. I mean, it's got these disturbing images, these really unsettling themes. It totally fits that kind of interpretation.
So we've got this poem totally shrouded in mystery, got these super creepy images, a story that's really open to interpretation, and then you add on this possibility of a curse connected to some deep, dark secret. Every single thing about Tomino's Hell is designed to give you the chills. Seriously, I mean, it kind of gets under your skin, Like, even if you're trying to be all skeptical and rational, you still get this, like, this little voice in the back of your head that's like, what if?
Totally.
Okay, before we go full on spooky, let's hear from the peanut gallery. Throw it. What are people saying online?
Okay, so the comment section, always a good time, right? And this article you sent, it's got some gems. You got people saying nothing happened. You got people saying they had crazy nightmares, weird stuff happening. It runs the gamut.
So more fuel for the whole is it cursed or not debate.
You could say that, but the really interesting thing is it just shows you how subjective belief is.
Yeah.
Some people are like, nope, all superstition, end of story. But then you got others who are like, okay, but what if? Even if they're not totally convinced, they're open to it.
It's like that question, right? Do we look for evidence to back up what we already believe, or do our beliefs change how we see the evidence?
100%. And Tomino's Hell, it seems to live right in that gray area. But whether you buy into the curse or not, the comments, they show you something kind of amazing. It's created this whole dialogue, this community, and they're all connected by, this fascination with the unknown.
And that's kind of what makes it a modern myth, right? It's something people are still talking about, arguing about, and that keeps the whole mystery of it alive.
Definitely. I mean, curse or no curse, Tomino's Hell. It taps into something really primal, like our deepest fears.
It's like a campfire story, but, for the internet age. Passed around from screen to screen, picking up new interpretations as it goes.
And like those campfire stories, it sticks with you. You finish reading it and you can't stop thinking about it.
Speaking of thinking, we can't forget that question the article ends with, right? It's like a challenge to look at Tomino's Hell in a totally new way.
Oh, yeah. So they ask, if Tomino's Hell was a painting, not a poem, what would it look like? What kind of scenes would you see? Would it be in color or black and white? Would it look realistic or, more abstract?
It's such a cool question. It makes you think about how you'd capture that feeling, that visceral, unsettling feeling you get from the poem, but in a visual way. I mean, would it be all dark colors and like grotesque images? Or something more subtle, more about the emotions? How would you even begin to paint that?
Right. I don't even know, but it definitely makes you think. And that's what I think this whole deep dive, this whole article, it's all about. It's not just about like taking in information. It's about engaging with it, letting it spark something in your imagination.
Well said. So, listeners, before you go, we want you to think about that question too. If you were the artist, what would your Tomino's Hell look like? Would you go full horror movie or something more, thought-provoking?
It's a good thought experiment.
Right.
And it reminds you that words, they have so much power. They can make you feel things, make you imagine things. And hey, some people even say they carry their own energy, right?
Absolutely. And Tomino's Hell, I think it's a perfect example of that. It's a poem that just stays with you. It leaves you with more questions than answers. And, maybe, just maybe, a little bit of a shiver down your spine.
Yeah, maybe sleep with the lights on tonight, just in case.
Thanks for coming along on this deep dive with us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and remember, sometimes the creepiest stories are the ones that leave you wanting more.